Welcome to Decades of Horror, the 1980s.
Lewis, sometimes dead is better. The Indians knew that. They stopped using that burial ground when the ground went sour.
This is episode 223, recorded December 28th, 2022.
Sweet and
Gruesome Magazine.
What was that? Sweet and sour?
Yeah.
Sweet and sour.
Ah,
It was
Pepperidge
like a
Farm,
good accent.
remember?
It was nice and subtle. Like I
Yeah.
actually really thought it was good.
I didn't want to go full Herman on it.
My name is Jeff Mohr, and this podcast is about horror films released between 1980 and 1989. Each episode, my co-hosts, Crystal Cleveland, Bill Mulligan, and Chad Hunt, and I will tackle another classic or not so classic film from this radical, gory, influential, and gruesome decade. Joining me tonight is Crystal Cleveland, the living dead girl and co-host of the Gruesome Magazine podcast. How are you, Crystal?
I'm great. See, I got my shirt ready. Yep. Here we are.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
I said your name right for the first time in like 3 episodes, I think.
It's probably because Christopher isn't with us. It's hard with Crystal and Chris. It's too many characters.
No,
You two
it's
look so much
not.
alike, it's almost scary.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Indistinguishable.
Also joining us is Chad Hunt, comic book artist, co-host of Decades of Horror, the all of them. How you doing, Chad, buddy?
Fine.
I needed you last episode.
What happened?
We were doing Dragon Slayer, and I was saying the word girl when I meant the word boy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about
Nobody
that.
could figure out what the hell I was talking about. And
That's
I
part of that whole
insisted I
Christopher
was
Crystal
right.
confusion.
Yeah.
I probably would have been no help on that.
But you're used to me doing that. You would have known exactly right away what.
Jeff thinks I'm really paying attention to him.
Yeah.
throughout most of the story. I'm not.
It's touching.
Best
Last
buds
but
to
not-
the end.
Last but not least is Bill Mulligan, writer, director, special effects guru, and co-host of Decades for the 1970s, and all around nice guy
And freshly coiffed.
and
Yes,
traveling
yes.
bon vivant.
I have a wedding tomorrow. My stepson Sean is getting married to his lovely fiancee Tessa. So yeah,
Awesome.
I decided I better go make myself look presentable.
Might as well.
And I had a
And-
birthday, so another year
Oh,
older.
yes.
But you know what? The cool thing is, for most of the year, I thought I already was 62. So now I actually turned 62. I have plateaued. I don't feel a day older than I did before.
Happy birthday
Yeah.
to you.
Yep.
I belong in a zoo.
All right. On this podcast, we start by giving some basic details of the film, followed by taglines and first impressions, and then we take off down the road, and we have a few visuals from the film for the individual characters and some of the effects and posters and all that kind of stuff. But first, we have
Who
to
picked this?
give you the details of the movie.
Me.
This is Crystal.
This
Yeah.
is Crystal's pick. We are doing Pet Sematary,
You misspelled it, Jeff. Jeez. You had one job.
1989. Ever since I read this book, I have a hell of a time spelling
Yeah.
the real cemetery correctly.
Sematary.
Directed by Mary Lambert, written by Stephen King, both the screenplay from his best-selling novel, starring Dale Midkiff, Fred Gwynne, Denise Crosby, Miko Hughes, Blaze Burdall, Brad Greenquist, and Andrew Hubutsek. It's filmed in Maine at Stephen King's insistence. And the filming dates are September 15th through November 11th, 1988. Released April 21st, 1989. The budget is estimated to be $11.5 million. And this is interesting. Domestic box office, $57.5 million. $12 million on opening weekend. Also, 2.8 million admissions, which is how they list it sometime for overseas. So 2.8 million admissions in West Germany, France, Spain, and Sweden. And then Wikipedia said the gross was 89.5 million. So that must be
Worldwide.
I don't know where they got that number, but
Made money.
It did very well. It did much better than I think most of them thought it was going to do. And that is the Pet Cemetery, the Micmac burial ground, the supernatural Pet Cemetery, not the first stage Pet Cemetery, which I like. It's not symmetrical. It's wonky.
I'd still never bury a pet there.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah, I wouldn't go within an area code.
Yeah, yeah.
If watching horror movies has taught me anything, Indian burial grounds, keep a wide berth.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's a true statement.
Yes.
But next up is our ever popular segment, Taglines with Chad.
Get ready for the show to be saved by the tagline segment, people.
Now, this one should have some good taglines, but let's
Maybe
see.
we should do it later then. I don't know.
It should. It really should have
One would think.
good ones, but one would think it would. All right. Taglines for Pet Cemetery are as follows. Iconic terror from the #1 best-selling writer. Dean
Okay,
Koontz.
well,
Okay.
they know who's going to bring the audience in. Okay.
Could have been
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, all right. Next one's a winner. Next one's a winner. I can feel it.
Don't forget to put out the cat before the cat puts you out.
I take it back. That was terrible.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah. Before the cat puts you. What is this? Yakov Smirnoff? In Russia, cat puts out you.
In Russia, the cat put you out. Okay. All right. That's a Yakov Smirnoff job.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Take
That's
that.
close.
Okay. All right. A magical place where a child's best friend can come back and live forever
Okay.
as an
That's
adult's
bad.
worst nightmare.
Oh.
And if it works for animals,
Dot,
I
dot,
don't-
dot.
I did that for dramatic effect. I stopped at animals and went ...
Yeah.
Just like in Sling Blade. Okay.
Horrible.
Hmm.
Horrible.
Sometimes dead is better. Sometimes
Yeah,
dead
of
is
course.
better.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the best.
That's a good one.
Dead is the best. It's just the best. Okay, and last, thankfully, tagline for Pet Cemetery is a pet isn't just for life.
Okay. I didn't realize this one had so many bad.
These were horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they are.
Yeah.
They are. Okay, well, that's been Taglines with Chad.
There you go. Yep. Save. Perfect. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So long,
So-
folks.
Are you sure this is a popular segment of this show?
Yeah.
We're
I
it is-
laugh every time.
It is with me. I just
Mhm.
Yeah, you just like hearing me read shitty taglines.
I do. I do.
He's on to
Uh,
us.
Well, this one is Crystal's pick, so we'll let you start with the first impressions. Why did you pick
Okay.
this? When did you first see it?
Oh God, I saw this when I was a kid, and I've always loved Pet Sematary. This is such a classic movie. It's so good. It's still good to me. Although for some reason, I don't know why I didn't remember. Oh, I didn't remember how the movie ended, and I don't know why I didn't realize it had such a sad ending.
Yeah.
For some reason I thought that like the mom and the dad and the sister lived, but I was wrong. I don't know what I've seen it so many times too since. I guess the truth is sometimes I watch horror movies so many times that I usually just play them and have them on while I'm doing things and I'm not focusing or paying as much attention to it. But this one's always a good one. And I mean, South Park doing their little Pepperidge Farm remembers, like, is classic and iconic, and I love it. And I loved Fred in this. I loved Miko in this. Oh my gosh. If he wasn't the cutest little baby,
He
oh
was,
my
yeah.
God, he's so cute. I think they did a really good job working with such a young child. I think they were clever with it and utilized him really to the best they could. I mean, he was so little. I realize in watching this again that The reality is the father is the real villain in this story. He's horrible. Like, horrible. Actually, they're both not the best parents. If you know you're moving into a home with such a busy road.
Yeah.
I literally never set my children down when they were little like that if we were out somewhere because I was hyper afraid. But it's like, come on, people. Like,
yeah, he did it twice. He ran into the road twice in this movie, which is 2 times more than any good parent would allow.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's just it's I would have gotten I'm shocked that he's a doctor and they moved from Chicago and yet they moved right onto this busy road and why wouldn't they put up a fence? I mean, a fence would probably be the first thing that I would do. Not getting the cat neutered, it would be the fence. Just because I mean also not only could a child get hit, but one of those cars could run off the road.
Yeah.
And right in it. So, I mean, there's so many things to consider here. I'm like, okay, so they really didn't take, I can't stay. It really bothers me when I think about the father. I'm like, you were warned at every turn. You had literally a ghost trying to do his best to help you at every turn. And yet you pooped on him. I also thinking about this now, I mean, I have such a different view. Like with the mother, I'm like, why is your father still in your life? Like, why is he? I mean, I don't talk to my father anymore, and he never would have done what her father did at the funeral. I mean, excuse me? Like, are you kidding me? Are you really kidding me? He's one of those narcissistic people who makes everything about him. I can't stand it. Although he wasn't wrong. He's like, oh, he'll bring you so much. Yeah, he did. Yeah. That was kind of prophetic. But so I view it differently now. When I was a kid, I didn't see these things. I didn't realize how poor the parents were. And now I feel so bad for the daughter that's going to be raised by the grandparents. Oh, God. Yeah. But, okay, so now that I've been super depressing, the movie's fabulous. I still love it. I just, like I said, I just view it in a different way. And I'm like, choices. I will say the new one was not nearly as good as this one. Like, I didn't mind that they remade it, and it was okay, but it didn't feel the same as this one did to me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Chad,
What?
how about you?
I watched this in the theater when it first came out because I was a huge Stephen King reader at the time. And this is the only book he ever wrote that scared me so much I could not put it down because I was afraid something might happen to me if I stopped reading it. It was just a gut-wrenching novel. And the movie, it's one of the better Stephen King adaptations. You can never truly bring what a book offers to a movie, but I think Mary Lambert did a wonderful job of bringing this story to life on screen with some of the moments in there with the sister upstairs and just some scary stuff, not to mention the fact that it sort of plays around with your fears as a parent and what could happen. You're always thinking when you have little kids, what might happen? What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? Well, this sort of brings all that into the forefront and tells you what's going to happen. You might not bury them in a Micmac Indian burial ground, but those fears, Stephen King really brought that out vividly in the book, and I think the actors did here too. It's good, but at the same time, I find myself not watching it if I have a chance, when I have the chance, because it is such a gut punch, and but it's a fabulous movie that I really like, and it's a staple of the time. period that it came out. A real testament to horror around this time, and she did a great job. Mary Lambert did. But so yeah, I loved it then, and then I still love it now.
All righty. Bill Mulligan, when did you first see this?
Well, okay, so when this came out, I was in the process of becoming a parent for the first time. And I think I had read the book and I liked it quite a bit. And I kind of avoided it for that reason. Not too long after the birth of my first daughter, probably before the birth of my second daughter, I did see it on video. I remember watching it with my ex-wife on video. And I thought I did a great job with just this dread hanging over the movie. Because I had read the book. I knew what was going to happen. Even if you went in blind, I think you know where this is going. Every damn time a truck roars by, you're just about jumping out of your skin there. That was really well done. It has a lot of jump scares, sometimes with a cat, mostly with a truck. And I remember I loved the ending. I thought the ending was great. Now, it's been a while since I revisited this movie, and watching it now, I've got problems with it that I didn't have before. I have some real problems with the narrative and everything. Judd makes no sense at all. He's not as I remember. I have ignored it before because he's so good. Fred Gwynne is so good in this role. He's fantastic. Yeah. It's iconic and everything. But his character doesn't make a lick of sense. He's the guy who tells them about the pet cemetery, takes them in the back, takes basically all but brings him back there with this dead cat. And then when things start going south, suddenly remembers, oh, wait, everyone who's done this has lived to regret it. He brought his dog back and he came back looking like Cujo. Someone put a human in there and turned into a Frankenstein zombie. Clearly, you should not have told him about this. No good was ever going to come about it. And the thing, well, I thought your daughter would be sad if her cat died, as opposed to her cat turning into a demon cat. No joke. So, he doesn't make any sense at all. And he's responsible for everything bad that happens. I don't think that the father's an evil character, but I think, unfortunately, the actor portraying him doesn't have there's not a lot of panache there. He just comes across as a weak character. And I think for this one, we need a character who's, has conflicts, we need Jack Torrance. We need someone who is not just being led around by the nose and just helplessly falls into this. He's got ghosts that are talking to him and warning him, but he ignores every single obvious sign. And I guess it wasn't until I watched it this time I realized that the whole family apparently have The Shining, because they are able to communicate with ghosts. The daughter gets, premonitions. The wife sees the ghost of her sister. The sister part was great. It feels like it doesn't really belong in the movie, but it's a really good part, so you get away with it. I guess just watching it now, maybe I'm looking at it more from a writing standpoint than I did at the time, and maybe I should stop doing that. It just felt like it didn't all come together. And I guess the other thing about it is I realize now the ending, which I love so much, is the exact same ending as a movie that came out the same year called Zader. I think in America it's called Revenge of the Dead, with a really misleading video cover about these places where K-zones, where if the dead are buried, they come back to life, and there's this conspiracy. It's an Italian zombie movie unlike any other, and the ending is 100% the same. I
don't think that they pulled it from Stephen King's book?
No, I think these two things came out. I think the Zader came out about the same year that the book was written. And the way things work, sometimes coincidences just happen because there's not enough time there for people to have,
Yeah, because the book would have been in publication.
Yeah, he was right. I don't think anyone ripped anyone off. It's a logical ending. It's in both cases, it's kind of a understated ending. We don't really see what happens, but we know what happens. And very well done. So the movie doesn't hold up as well as I thought it did. I really want to like this. But I do think it is one of the most literal adaptations we ever got from a Stephen King. It makes sense because he wrote the script. Maybe now I'm seeing it differently because I don't have young kids anymore. I have grandkids. I was just down in Florida with them, and we're playing with scooters out on the streets. But luckily, they live in a nice little cul-de-sac kind of thing.
No 18-wheelers running.
No 18-wheelers screaming by, and Yeah, and but there are parts. Things just kept taking me out. And Crystal, you mentioned one. That father-in-law. What the hell is his thing? His daughter married a doctor. He's not like a hippie selling weed on the side or anything. What was he expecting?
It's so odd.
Yeah, it was very odd, but the effects hold up. Cage is great. It gets really I think it really does start picking up at the end and everything when, it's got a great beginning. It's got kind of a muddled middle with things. I'm just not sure where they were going with everything. I would have liked to have understood a little better. What was there was supposed to be a Wendigo, but all we really got was one really odd special effect.
Yeah.
I feel like this needed to go through the writer's table one more time. Let's tighten things up, make things, we have all the pieces here. But listen, this is still the most successful horror movie ever directed by a woman. And yet Mary Lambert really, I don't think has been allowed to do a whole lot since. She did the sequel. She did a couple of minor horror pictures. She did one of those god-awful sci-fi channel Mega Python versus Robo Bat or something. And
that's a shame too.
In the interviews I've seen with her, she's really bad. She was a major music video director. Mm-hmm. She did Madonna's "Like a Prayer," which is one of the top music videos of all time.
Better. Oh, that's actually my favorite.
She did tons of them. She did.
But a lot of times they don't translate well into movie.
Yeah.
No.
But I think she did.
But usually, and you're right, because I think of like Russell McKay. Usually the problem is they're really good with music videos. They know how to make something flashy and sparkly and pretty to look at, but it doesn't have to have any narrative coherence.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think this movie might have benefited a little more flash, a little more creepiness and fancy lighting or angles or something. I mean, $11.5 million is actually a pretty good budget.
She might have been afraid.
It was her first movie. And if you read between the lines of her interview, I think the studio wanted actually George Romero. And there was a conflict So who knows? But I think it still has a lot to recommend it. I can see why they went to remake it. I don't think that the remake is slicker. The changes they made to me are very obvious. It's kind of a simple story, really. So, but I think it still holds up, and it still has a good kick-ass ending. It really does.
Yeah.
So I do recommend it, but I'm kind of a little disappointed. This is one of those ones that didn't quite hold up to my memories as much as I was hoping it would.
Yeah, I'm a little bit with you there. I did see it with a totally different pair of eyes, and I really hadn't watched it much since I saw it in the theater, but I did go back and rewatch it after this remake came out, because the remake, everybody was screaming. There was a lot of negative stuff online about the remake, and I didn't quite get it. They changed it. Okay. Yeah. Like movies never do that. So anyway, so this is weird watching this now, because there was parts that I didn't notice originally when I saw it in the theater. I totally agree with what you said about Fred Gwynne. He kind of he goes from this guy that's warning him about it to a guy that literally takes the cat out, and to a guy who's back to warning him about it again. And
can I speak on that just a second? I don't mean to interrupt you, Jeff.
Sure.
It's been a while since I've read the book, but I feel like Judd's character warned them not to go any further into the woods. And I could be wrong, and I'm sure if somebody's out there listening who remembers it, but I thought that Judd told them don't go any further into the woods than the children's little pet cemetery that they had right there, and the Indian burial ground was just beyond that. If I remember correctly, he told them in the book not to go
He said that actually
Did
when
he say
he
that in
first
the movie?
showed it to him. When he first showed it to him.
Okay.
And then
I couldn't
though,
Right, right.
then
Well,
he
and
did
that's
take him. So that's
that's
what's
kind of where I
weird,
was
you
going to
know?
go. In that there are
weird.
things that I
Yeah.
think King writes the screenplay. I'm sure there's things in there that were like his favorite things that he didn't leave out. He didn't want to leave out yet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's famous for his characterizations and character development. You know all their motivations and all their background, and you just can't put that all in a movie. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
maybe what we're missing is a lot of that stuff. Because I'm thinking, this has motivated me to want to read the book again, to see what was Judd's motivations, what was the dad's thinking, what was the deal with the woman and her parents, you know, that kind of thing. Especially when you know what Crystal said about the way her father acted at the funeral, but also the idea of leaving her home alone with her sister
No.
Yeah.
when she's like what 8 years old.
Mhm.
So
Horrible.
yeah, all of those things now kind of, you know, in hindsight don't make sense. Again, Fred Gwynne is awesome. I love him, and it's a great script in that, you know, we're kind of joking beforehand because I try to come up with what are some lines for quotes. There are so many great lines in here, partly because Fred Gwynn's saying them and they sound great, but partly because Stephen King wrote them, and he's got all this stuff in there about the ground being sour and don't go beyond the barrier and don't, you know, all that stuff. The kid, both the kids actually are incredible. I mean, this without that kid, this wouldn't be anywhere near as good. I agree that Dale Midkiff may be sort of the weak spot in terms of the acting, although he does have some spots where he shines. I do think they did a lot of stuff to make it creepy. You know, I mean, there was a lot of down-looking shots, like overhead down into rooms and things to kind of portend, I think, or give some foretelling of something bad was going to happen. Anyway, but there was a lot of weird things. Like Crystal brought this up, and maybe we should talk about this as a subject later. Maybe we can just kind of morph into it right now. The first thing I thought was, okay, the kid almost walks out in the road, the cat gets run over, and then the kid goes out in the road again, and you haven't built a fence. Now, the weird thing is, when they first drive up to this place, when they arrive, there is no fence. But later, there's a fence there. There's a picket fence, but it's only around the house to the road. There's this huge field next to the house that they spend all their time in that has no fence. And you see it later on. You see it like from Judge. You see it like when he goes and gets out in his car, stuff like that. But they never say anything about it. And it wasn't there in the opening scene when they drive into the house. So that was one of those things that kind of rubbed me. And then I also was like, the kid, I'm like going, wait a minute, this kid got hit by a semi.
He wouldn't look. I know. Yeah.
Yeah, there's going to be like pieces. There's not going to be a kid with one scar on his head.
Yeah, the shoe should have had a foot in it.
Yeah.
But that was part of the problem, that they wanted to use this child who was very, very genuinely young. And to their credit, I'll give them credit for this. They didn't want to traumatize him for the rest of his long life. So they really couldn't gore him up, because they didn't want to when they're using the real kid at the end, they were very careful to only use him for scenes where they had to have a real person. The rest of it was a robot. And if he'd been all scarred up and everything, they would have had to make him up, and they didn't want to do that. And I respect them for that. But
they didn't. They also didn't want to put him through hours of makeup either.
Right.
Which would have been.
Right.
They said they did a test, and that just was impossible. It was like it's torture to try to make a kid that's.
I guess this is one of the things that she really.
Still.
Yeah, she really fought for using them. The studio wanted to do what they usually do, which is find twins. So you.
And still with the twins, I don't think either of them would have sat through makeup.
Yeah.
Well, either way,
not that age.
Like
they also said that they tried to keep him, like in the scenes with the fights and that kind of stuff. If there was blood in the scene, they tried to use the puppets, or they'd have like the actor. I know that one scene where where he crawls up to Judd and pretends to bite his neck.
Bite
There's
him. Yeah.
there's a little bit of blood dripping down the side of his face, but
nothing, though.
that's not right in his face.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they pitched it to him like, this is a game we're going to according to Mary Lambert, he was amazingly acting like an actor. Like he would,
Mhm.
if they told him
Well,
to stay on his
Mino
mark,
is
he
so
stayed on his mark.
cute.
When they told him to
Yeah.
wait until I say action, he waited until they said action, and then they didn't, all of that stuff that they said, that's not somebody doing ADR.
That's a rare
really him.
thing.
That's
I've worked with
amazing.
kids, and it can be no fun working with kids.
Mhm.
Anyway,
I don't know if y'all have had the chance to meet him, but he's so sweet.
Oh,
Like,
really?
He's very little.
Yeah, he's a little.
Yeah,
Like,
he's like
he's very
5'4" or
little.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, but he's still he's unmistakable. Obviously, his hair is dark; it's not blonde anymore. But I mean, I'm surprised he hasn't gotten more work, honestly.
I think
he's been
he was in
based
a
on
few
that.
more movies, but as an adult, I haven't seen him in many things. But
Yeah.
I think he does some a bunch of voice work. He did a voice on
Oh,
the Louis Anderson animated TV show.
oh, okay.
I can't remember what the name of it was.
And so does the young lady who played the sister. She does quite a bit of voice
Yeah.
work now.
Oh, good.
But
All
I
right,
met
so
him. I
let's-
met him at I think it was Mad Monster, one of those, and he's just very, very cool.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
cool
That's
guy.
nice. That's nice.
Sweet.
Mhm,
Like it's
mhm.
like, oh, he's so nice. Like
There was something in
it's
his
funny.
trivia on IMDb about him having a bee farm with 30,000 bees.
Wow.
Oh, that's
I don't know
cool.
if he still does. That was like in the end of like around 19 or around
That's pretty cool,
2000. So I don't know. All right, so here's the poster, and this is one. There are some other posters, but this is
That's the one I remember.
this.
that's the one.
Mhm.
Pretty cool. We got Pascal in
Mhm.
there, and the Pet Cemetery.
Cage.
All right,
Church, I mean.
so
Church. Yeah, that's okay. Winston Churchill. That's so cute.
Yeah.
and so there are some good effects in here too. That
One of the best is the simple one. If you shine a light at a cat from the right angle, they look like a demon.
Yeah.
They have to do anything, no post work or anything. Just shine the light. Just got to get the angle right, and yeah.
And the way his ears are back, and that
Mhm.
the look on his mouth
That
and
cat
everything.
is so pretty.
It
I
is.
love
That's
that cat.
a British short hair. They're a thick furred, stocky cat. Beautiful.
He's a
Beautiful.
beautiful cat.
Hey, yeah.
so
like, I
they
love
said
the
that
cat.
everybody admitted that you couldn't train cats, but you got cats that had personalities to do certain things apparently, and they had like
Poopy
8 or 9
personalities.
cats on this. Yeah, there was one that was called the
mean one.
Cuddler,
Yeah, you got
One
hissy
that-
cat.
one the
Purry
hissy
cat.
one's a scratcher, one's the leaper.
Yeah, because that cat is genuinely scared. The one on the bottom is
Mhm.
legitimately scared and hissing. Like cats only
Right.
do that
Mhm.
when they're actually, like the eyes are even bigger, and it's trying to. It really feels like it's in danger. Gotta protect myself.
Mhm.
And they also
It's
said they
not
had
really in
to
danger,
like
sweet cat. Oh,
not feed them in the morning, they until they did their tricks, and then they fed them until they wouldn't do the trick anymore. The behavior that they wanted. She also strongly emphasized the idea that the animals were not harmed. Like when Doc tries to kill the cat with the injection, that the cat was given a shot by a veterinarian on set. There was SPCA people there all the time.
there was actually a shot. I'm
They
surprised.
Yeah,
actually put the
a
cat
shot.
to sleep. Yeah.
No, to sleep, wake up
sleep.
again.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
to sleep off to
Just
the
to
farm.
knock it
Sleep.
out.
You gotta be specific here.
Yeah, but what a shot! That
Yeah.
shot of that cat at the bottom is just the lighting
that's
on
great.
that
I know,
is
it's
amazing,
beautiful.
and it's like a 1 in a million shot. I don't think they could have got that twice.
But cats can be a little trained. I mean, it depends
Well,
on the
they-
cat, but
They're a little
yeah,
trained.
I've had friends who've had cats that would absolutely do tricks. It
I've
just
got
depends on the cat.
several great scripts for short films that involve cats, and I realize a better idea would just be to film my cats for a couple
Yeah.
weeks, see what I
Make
get,
the story
and then
fit.
write a story around
Make the story around that. Yeah.
Yeah.
much easier.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's. The writer Stephen King. There's the book cover.
There he is.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's the man
And
himself.
there he is, being the preacher at Gage's funeral.
Yeah,
Which apparently they asked him to do that. That wasn't something that he was asking to do. So talk a little bit about, so we talked about her doing all these videos. Well, through doing all these videos, she became friends with the Ramones.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like my
And
favorite
When
band of all
she met
time.
Stephen King, he was a big fan of the Ramones. And she said, I actually think I got the job because I was friends with the Ramones. And then she asked them to write that outro song,
fabulous.
which is awesome.
I mean, I listened to that song. I have it on one of my playlists, but I actually like listened to the credits like two or three times.
It took them a half hour to write that song, like any great Ramones song. You know, kids today, listen, here I am, old man yells at clouds. If you don't know who the Ramones are, or if they're just some sort of mythical thing, like, you know, Benny Goodman and his band, you got to check them out. They're hard to describe. They knew 3 chords and they played them all great. Their music was Johnny Ramone was one of the best guitar players of all time, although you wouldn't think it until you see someone try to do what he did. Joey Ramone looked like hard to describe. And then there were a bunch of other Ramones who would die of drug overdoses and stuff, you know. But there were those 2. Johnny and Joey were the 2. Dee Dee was good too. Their music is simple. It seems really easy. They were never successful, not in the, you know, sense of really having hits.
Lifetime.
Yeah, but I mean, they played 3,000 gigs. They released 13 albums. Their stuff is super influential. Still holds up. Check them out. If you don't know who they are, check them out, and you'll appreciate it, man.
Well, this.
I mean, I Want to Be Sedated is one of the
yeah.
Like everyone's heard.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people have probably heard Ramones songs and not know.
Well, the song the trucker's listening to is a Ramones, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Right before he.
Well, King's a big rock fan. Like he put AC/DC in the Maximum Overdrive.
He put that stuff on while he was writing.
He would stick a lot of little notes, you know, little lyrics and everything into his books.
Yeah.
Which you can only get away with if you're Stephen King or willing to spend a lot of money. But yeah, he's a cool rock and roller.
All right. So, and there she is.
There's Mary Lambert.
Mary Lambert. And she said she loved working with King and that he was a great collaborator. He lived, she said, like 20 minutes from where they were filming a lot of the time. And so he came over a lot, or if she had a question about changing something, that he was really open to stuff like that when it made sense for either the location or the filming. You know, that tree that the tire swing was on, they actually moved that tree there.
Oh, wow.
Everything else, the $11 million budget goes to.
That's like a big deal.
I know.
Jeez.
According to her, I mean, everything else.
Yeah, they said that.
They found this perfect house with the house across from it, with the road coming by that the trucks could come barreling down, and the woods, and anyway.
So she did Pet Sematary too, but this was another thing where when she came onto it, she didn't have any real creative control. The script was already written. King had nothing to do with it. It was just sort of hacked out. I haven't seen it. It's probably something we'll do at one point. And then
it's the 90s.
It's a 90s.
She also and still, people are like, she's still one of the most prolific horror directors, women horror directors. Like, what? But then I realized no, she did quite a few, like Tales from the Crypt and a few other things. So, she has been sort of typecast, but she hasn't done very much. When I saw Mega Python versus Gatoroid, and people are like, oh, it's so sad that Tiffany is doing this. I'm like, no, what's sad is Mary Lambert is having to do Mega Python versus Gatoroid when, she's the most successful female horror director we have in terms of how much money her movie brought in. Throw her a freaking bone. Let her do, what's her dream project? What's something she would like to do? And, let her give it a shot. Why not? I don't understand these.
She did direct Halloween Town too. Okay. Which I loved. And she also directed a Brooke Shields and is it Carrie Ells? Christmas movie.
Oh, one of those Christmas movies.
And I liked it. It's a good one. Okay. So I mean, she does a good job. Like, she's good.
Yeah.
Well,
Like, legitimately, she's good. It's too
we
bad.
talked about Madonna, but she did videos for the Pretenders, Motley Crue, Janet Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Brown, the
cool.
Go-Go's, Kim
Go-Go's.
Carnes, Rod Stewart, Chris Isaac, Eurythmics, Sting, Deborah Harry, Queensryche. I mean, I think she was when Madonna, after Madonna had those videos come out, I think she became like the hot music video because all these people went to her.
And again, this is something that might be hard to explain to people today, but there was a time when MTV videos were being considered as a legit art form just as much as film.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
of course, that was at a time when MTV was showing, videos as opposed to what it is now. So
Do they?
Yeah, like
does
all day
MTV
long.
Actually exist? Is there actually MTV right now? Is
Yes.
it
I
a
think
thing?
there,
Is
I
it
think
real?
there is, but it's mostly reality programs, and
Right.
it's
Okay.
the
I didn't
music
know that
video as
MTV was still
the music video as an
around.
art
Sorry,
form
that
doesn't
sounds-
really exist.
I think Teen
that much
Moms
anymore.
is one of their reality shows.
Oh, okay, yeah. The classics.
Anyway.
Yeah.
No, I can remember going into the store that I worked in. There was a bar right next to it. I'd walk out of work, go into the bar, and they'd have MTV on there. They had one of the old big screens with the 3 color
Projection.
projectors, but it just playing videos all day long, Just,
And some of that stuff was great. I mean, yeah, you sat
It
through a
is.
lot of crap videos, junk videos, heavy metal stuff where they're in a factory that just makes sparks, and a couple of lame ones. But then every now and then there'd be, here comes a Peter Gabriel video, and you're like, whoa, wait, this is mind blowing. It was a great time, but I don't think there's enough product anymore. There's not enough.
No.
yeah.
Nowadays, you can just sit in the bar and watch Gatoroid versus
YouTube
Giant
is
Python.
MTV,
Yeah.
I mean, YouTube is really
Gatoroid. It sounds like a
MTV.
rip-off Gatorade drink.
Yeah.
You just scroll something up and go through the playlist.
Right. That's true. That's true.
So Dale Midkiff.
Yep.
Made a good Elvis.
Oh, what was he? Who was he?
Elvis and
movie?
Me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was,
I never saw it. I kind of remember his face, but maybe that's just because of this movie. So I'm not sure that I remember him in anything else.
Strangely enough, I remember him from Time Tracks, which was a time traveling cop from the future. I'm a sucker for time travel stuff. And
I just didn't think that there was enough there. He needed to register more. Denise Crosby was fine, but she pretty much was the same worried express, playing that through the whole thing. And he needed to show more.
I thought the scene at the funeral when the dad attacks him and says, you killed.
Yeah.
Danger.
I mean,
it's all your fault. I thought that was a really great reaction. The first reaction.
Yeah. When he's like,
him.
yeah, he was, I don't think it said he can't act. I don't know if he was being told to hold it back or something. It just seemed too repressed. And then when it comes out, like when we get the big, and now it's just because it's such a cliche, but unfortunately that's become such a trope that you almost laugh at it. And I shouldn't be laughing because a little kid just got pulverized.
Well, that's
by
it.
a semi.
So this thing actually has some taboos in here. I mean, we kill the pet,
Killing a kid.
we kill the dog, we kill the kid.
then everybody else dies.
We have an unhappy ending.
And then it's literally the I forget who mentioned this. I read this somewhere that it's sort of like a version of the monkey's paw, the W.W. Jacobs story.
Yeah.
Where you give the wish and you get the wish, and I think if I'm right, it ends with wishing your son back, and it shambles up to the door or something.
Well, that's the second wish, is that they wish the son back, and there's something pounding on the door, and before she opens the door, the father makes the last wish that he go back to being. So we don't actually see it. Monkey's Paw is a great story.
So the 3 wishes here are the cat, the kid, and the wife.
Yeah, and there's no wishing back, and yet we have the daughter, who's a cool character, and just disappears. Which is good for her, because the fact that she gets left out of the rest of the movie means she doesn't suffer the same fate
she's
as
the one
everybody
else. She's getting. You're right in that they had the Shining kind of the. She did. I guess the mother kind of does. There's that whole scene where she's going back and Pascal's ghost is with her, and she doesn't consciously hear what he's saying, but gets the message kind of. Right?
Yeah, which would be fine. Is like, okay, so both the mother and the daughter have this gift, but what are the odds that she also marries a guy with it too? Because he's really got it strong, because he's actually talking to the ghost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ghost is coming. I mean, the ghost. So there's that too in that, and it's in the notes, but she talked a lot about it, and I hadn't really thought about it at first. That Pascal, the really ugly, disfigured effects with his brains hanging out, is like the good angel.
Yeah.
And Judd is the bad guy, always
He's the devil. He's the villain.
He's the villain. Yeah.
Now, would help, and him,
right?
Like, really.
Part of the problem is these ghosts are always cryptic. It's like, oh, I foresee something bad will happen. Just tell me what I should or shouldn't do, because
he did.
Judd here is holding me by the hand and taking me out.
Further.
Yeah,
they literally said, "Don't."
That's true. That's true. He didn't listen at that.
I know you
Pascal
want
did
to,
too,
but don't do it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Pascal. Yeah. He's like, "Don't do it. Don't do it."
By the end of the movie, our hero, the father, is basically ready for a rubber room.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's the character in a Lovecraft story who is now just like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yeah.
When he's digging up Gage, and the cops come and don't see him, and then he gets up and starts giggling. Really,
To me, the best part, Denise Crosby comes walking in there with a juice box coming out of her left eye, and he's like, "Give me some sugar." Right.
Dude. So the book ends with him sitting there waiting, and a hand touches his shoulder from behind, and he hears the words "darling" whispered.
Yes.
So it's similar still.
But if I remember the actual line as written, I don't think I'm making this up because I'm not that good. The last line is something like, "Darling," she said through a mouthful of dirt. The end. Close the book. Okay. Try to go to sleep. Yeah. Okay. Not happening.
But he hasn't actually seen her yet.
Yeah.
So in this, they add where he sees her, doesn't notice it, goes in for the big clench while there's like infected goo dripping down her face.
Okay, y'all are thinking that, but I don't think he cares.
Yeah, I think he knows. He saw it, and he doesn't care.
He's gonna die. Right. He knows what's gonna happen. He doesn't want to live anymore. He knows he did all this. He did it. He buried the cat. He got his son killed. He brought his son back. He got his friend killed. He got his wife killed, and now I think it's his.
Kind of a slow learner.
Well, he says something like, "I'll just bring him back. I'll just bring Gage back, and if he's not right, I'll just send him back again."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's where
he has time to do that.
I think that's where the Wendigo comes in to play.
Yeah,
because the Wendigo is about consumption and just wanting everything, wanting what you want, and I think that kind of follows that path where he knows these things are going to happen, but he does it. He does it anyway out of his own.
I like his justification too. It's like, well, the problem was Cage had been dead for too long, and they put formaldehyde in him. But Denise Crosby's fresh. You know, she's going to come back just fine.
I don't think that is that crazy. That part, I mean, it's possible.
If at first you don't succeed,
Yeah, right.
I mean, there could be something there.
Well, it's like Reanimator. Well, this time I'm going to use a fresher body, and then it'll be okay. It won't go crazy like the last one.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
All right. Well, we got some Fred Gwynne here.
Delicious neck.
You know, looking at him at the top there, if they ever do the Friend Gwynne story, tell me I'm crazy. Sammy Cassell. They got to cast Sammy.
Yeah.
Oh, we
Obviously.
call him Herman
Yes,
Munster all the time.
That's what I've seen. I've seen that like every time. The first time I saw him, I was like, "Whoa!" And he's
For
tall,
those of you who
too.
don't know, Sammy is a cool guy. We all love him,
Yeah, he
and
is.
he's an actor.
He's not cool, and only some of us like him.
Well, wow.
So
That's not true. Chad loves him.
looking at Fred Gwynn's stuff, we already mentioned Car 54, Where Are You,
at
which
his
I
hair, it's
watched
pretty.
as a kid. It was pretty
Mhm.
funny. They had a couple of great characters. Al Lewis was in that, and then I forget the guy's name that was his sidekick. But he was really the comic character. And then yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
The Munsters.
Of course. Classic.
And then he doesn't get a lot to work with. He gets like really bit parts and
I think he got typecast. I think
Well, he
Herman
did. Now,
Munster really.
I did see a movie that I really want to see. He did a TV version of Arsenic and Old Lace
Oh wow.
with Lillian Gish and
Gee.
I can't think of what's the other one's name? Excuse me.
See, he didn't age well though. He's like 62 or 63 when they shot this.
Right.
I don't think he aged well.
Wow, he looks a lot
Yeah.
older than that.
Yeah.
He was
Well,
only
they
66
dyed
when
his
he
hair.
died.
Now was he not also the judge in like
My
was
Cousin
My Cousin
Vinny?
Vinny? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes.
He's got the voice of authority. He was really well cast as Herman Munster, and you know you watch the Munsters now, and yeah, it's old and corny and everything, but really he played one of the most decent characters
Yeah.
ever created for TV. Just a
He was
really
one of the
decent
greatest
guy.
TV dads.
One of the great
Yeah.
TV
Ever.
dads. You know,
Yeah.
every dad should be this cool, which was part of the conceit of that they were the most normal. They were really a normal family, except they were monsters, and they were really what you want a family to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
He was
So
a very
this
good
Arsenic-
actor.
This Arsenic and Old Lace television movie. The two old women are Helen Hayes and Lillian Gish.
Oh wow.
The Cary Grant part is Bob Crane.
Okay.
But Fred Gwynne plays it'd be the Boris Karloff character when it was on Broadway or on off Broadway, whatever, when it was playing and was a big success. And then Raymond Massey plays in the Cary Grant film. And I think he'd be awesome in that shot. He's the serial killer.
I could see that.
The big tall. Anyway, I would kind of like to see that just to see how that goes. Anyway,
It's funny
great.
that they're like, he's not 6'5" isn't that tall. My brother's 6'5". My best friend is 6'5". Like, but back then 6'5" was like,
yeah,
unusual.
Sammy couldn't pull off the main accent though. He'd be like, sometimes dead's better.
Yeah, good call.
Y'all.
Maybe Chad, you could double.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Mm-hmm.
All right. So the little girl, and this was, they
So
did hire
cute.
twins.
But they mostly
her-
used her.
Yeah, they mostly used her. The other one was Bo, her sister. And
Wow.
Mary Lambert said something about how apparently she's done this many times, that when she has worked with twins, usually one ends up being the one that's she pictures as the character and gets more of the time. So on the credits, it lists the sister
Right.
as
Yeah.
Ellie Creed 2.
Oh,
But she did all these. She did all the really
that's
I
fair.
think heavy
though.
duty acting
She's-
parts. When she's screaming about the dream she's having about her dad
Yeah.
and her mom and everything, and she's crying. Did you guys see that about how they got her to cry?
Oh
Mm-mm.
God.
What?
They told her. This is Mary Lambert was talking. She said she told her to think of something that had happened in her life that made her really sad. And the girl was like, she couldn't come up with anything that sad. And so then Mary Lambert told her, okay, well, I'll pay you more money if you can cry.
Oh,
And
this
that
kid's a
worked.
genius.
She was like
That's
7 years old.
wonderful.
I tried using that with my boss once and it didn't work.
That's wonderful.
If you pay me more money, I'll cry.
Pay me more money. I'll work harder.
But anyway,
Wow.
Then I cried.
she does
She
a
was
great job
good.
too.
Yeah.
When she gets frantic about those.
And
dreams she's having.
Mary Lambert wanted the sequel to be about her, and they were like, no. So, okay.
The sequel's okay. I just watched it, and I think it's okay. You know, it's a lot more gruesome, like you would expect, and it's the kid from
Terminator.
Steve from Terminator. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Edward Furlong.
Ed Furlong.
So, and there's a couple other kids. So, you know, you get the bad kid and it's sort of the neighborhood
Stand by
bully.
Me, Pets.
And then the meek
Paint by
kid
numbers.
whose stepfather is the cop, Clancy Brown.
Uh-oh.
So that
Clancy.
anyway,
Ready, kids?
she's excellent. And then
Oh,
Zelda.
I think people
Zelda.
remember Zelda more than almost anything else from this movie.
It's so scary. She's super scary.
The way the book described her,
Oh.
this just brought all that to life right
Yeah.
there. That whole scene, it was just an intense scene in that book, and this just brought it all to life. For me, it did anyway.
That woof.
Well, and then the idea that the whatever evil entity is in the burial ground appears to Rachel as her sister first, and then becomes Gage, or then we have Gage. And also, did you notice that little outfit they had him in was the same as in that portrait in her parents' house? That goofy portrait on the wall of that.
No, I didn't notice that.
They had again, Mary Lambert says that was a thing back in that, olden times, that you would have paintings made of your kids dressed up like an adult. And they had this kid in this blue velvet outfit and a top hat and a cane with a very sober look on his face. And that's what they had Gage wearing there at the end, why it was so weird. Anyway. There was a big painting. There was a painting like that in the parents' house on the wall that they walked by several, there's several times where they walked by all those pictures on the wall. And they're like, it's all the dead people in the family. And anyway,
Creepy.
weird things like, well, what?
This dead person was the scariest of them all.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, is that was the guy's name that played her?
Andrew
Hubatsik. Which was according to the director, was her thing, her decision.
It was well cast.
Well, it's because he was so skinny. He was very, very, very thin and
very
bony.
thin. Well, they tried casting a bunch of really thin women, and it just wasn't working. And I think I kind of get that because I've known some women for various health reasons who were very, very thin. I mean, to an alarming thing, and they just seem very fragile. He is scary. I don't know what makes him so thin. I don't know if it's a condition or just his body type or whatever. But having a man play this female role just gives a disturbing element to it.
Yeah, it's very off-putting, and
there's something. There's something off.
Something's wrong, but you don't know what it is. Yeah.
Now, whether they be able, how did they do this for the remake?
I never saw the remake.
I don't remember actually.
You know what? I don't
if
either.
had it.
I did watch the remake, but I don't.
See, that's the thing. For all the flaws I have with this movie, it's memorable. People remember it. They may remember the movie as being better than it is, but they do remember parts of it, and that's a sign of it being effective.
Oh, those trucks on the road, that was like one of the main characters in the movie. I mean, every time, like even when he's going across the street because Judd just called him and said the cat was dead.
Yeah.
And they show him the camera behind him. He walks up to the highway, and then
Out of nowhere,
swoosh, a truck comes flying
these
by.
trucks are like ninjas. Until they're literally right on top of you, you can't hear them, and all of a sudden, you jump in the air.
Anyway, but they're nasty, and there's places like that. There was an awful lot of trucks coming out of that place, but think about if you were, if you lived close, like the main road coming out of a gravel pit, it'd be kind of like that,
Yeah.
Well, this guy, he is great in this. He didn't really do too much else. And here's our buddy Miko, and there's his little get up there with the.
God, he's so cute.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
God, he's so cute. And when in the first part where he's in his little diaper, and then he's like got his little loud. I love little
I think
kids.
that is one problem. Even when he's evil, he's cute. I thought the voice was scary. I thought the part that you were talking about, Crystal, where he's talking on the phone and little voice. First, I played with.
We had
John,
an
then I
awfully
played with
good
Mommy.
time. That was it.
Yeah.
We had an awfully good time.
Yes,
like
right.
no little kids, so cute. The words made it spookier.
Yeah.
We had an awfully good time.
Well, right. I mean, even right before he gets hit by the truck, they're flying the kite, and I timed this because I was being really hard on the parent too, but the father only turned around for like 17 seconds, and that was all it took for
Kid's a speed toddler.
the kid. They just
They can do that. They can get away from you pretty fast. It's
but the
true.
voices that he said, or the voice, or the lines that the kid had were awesome. I mean, got it, flying it. God, he was so good.
I gotta say, the effects were good in this too. I mean, the scene where he slices through Fred Gwynne's Achilles tendon has really stuck with me.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
It's like that's my baseline for injuries to your ankle. Kid tells me I sprained my ankle. I look at it, it's like, yeah, you don't look like Fred Gwynne in Pet Sematary. Walk it off.
Yeah, the other really great shot, I think, was when Lewis, is it Lewis or is it no? It's Rachel goes up there and pulls the bedspread back and sees Judd laying there, and the kid's been gnawing on his mouth. There's big chunks gone. That was a prosthetic. There was Fred Gwynne wasn't there. I thought that was amazingly well done. I was looking at that going, how is he keeping his eyes open and not moving? Because it was so realistic. I mean, God, it was creep.
Yeah. Look how he's got his little face scrunched up at the top there.
You just
trying to
want to
look evil.
Cheeks and pinch.
Yeah, we want to pinch his little evil cheeks.
So sweet.
And when he comes up and
I can't handle it.
slices across Fred's mouth too, that was
awesome.
I mean, just look at that cute look. Okay, so here's another thing. Let's be real. Okay, that little child. Look at the kite he's holding on to. Okay, that thing would pull him away.
Take him right into space.
There's no one that would have that kid holding that alone. Have you ever flown a kite?
Yeah.
Like they pull you. This is
like
this
is like the Honey I Shrunk the Kids family here, where they, how many times can you screw things up before the social services shows
this
up?
kid was doomed one way or the other.
Yeah.
He was either going to fly away or get hit by a truck.
If only the daughter was home, they could have got her too.
Yeah. Dodged a bullet.
No, but the line too, and we've mentioned it already, but it just hits you after Lewis gives him the shot that's going to kill him, and I'm curious as to how they did that, because that kid looks really pained in that shot. I mean, that was well done.
Well, I think for his age, he was a very, very good actor.
Yeah.
He understood the direction and things that he was given. Most kids don't. don't have the attention span for that, but for
Yeah,
some
and he
reason,
walks-
he just was good.
What was cute is he didn't overact. He just gave that little poochy lip that little kids do. When,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No fair.
No fair. That was like great. That was, and a gut punch too, because here, it's one thing to kill a monster in the shape of your child, but then all of a sudden it's back to being like a kid again. It's acting
Right.
like
Yeah.
a kid. And you're like,
Yeah.
am I just out of my mind here?
Well, that was, it's hard to watch too, as he kind of
Yeah.
walks down and then falls over
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and collapses. And then the dad throws the gas all over, and
Mhm.
they show the gas zooming up and starting the kid on fire.
Yeah.
I assume that was one of the uses of the dummy.
we could assume so, probably. All right, I'm doing my usual thing here. So here's this cemetery.
Yeah. A lot of good carpentry work. Should have worked on the spelling a little better, but okay.
Mhm.
Public schooling.
We got a nice sign up there. Had lots of nice little epitaphs on the.
Yeah, I got to say this hit home to me because I grew up in upstate New York where we built forts and did stuff in the woods, and this is totally something I could have seen the neighborhood kids doing.
Yeah.
We watched the Little Rascals, and we kind of.
I was getting ready to say, I was getting ready to say, this is our gang stuff. Right
Yeah.
And the ending, then,
Ugh.
yeah, that's a great makeup.
It is.
Yeah. Denise
See,
Crosby's
that's
interesting.
Part of what the deal is them doing this to her and to Pascal really reemphasizes what they did not do to Miko.
Right.
You know,
that's
it's
kinda-
like it's like because they did so much on these two adults, it's like
Mhm.
but I forgive that. Like I can overlook that.
I understand the
get it.
reasoning behind that. Yeah.
I
Right.
prefer that they used a younger child because in the remake they used an older child, and I don't think it was as impactful. There's something about
Yeah,
this
the
tiny little
younger innocent kid
Yeah.
made it that more effective than it would have been as an older.
Yeah, I really do think it just there's something about it. It really you're like he's so cute.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And whatever this thing was that was possessing these corpses when they come out back to life or whatever, was there had to be a distinct dichotomy between how innocent the
Right.
child is and how evil the entity
Mhm.
that's possessing it is.
So I wanted to mention these guys. I was trying to drill through the long list of credits for the effects, and there was a guy named Gene Warren Jr. Does that sound familiar to anybody?
Yeah. Well, the Warren. Wow.
Yes.
Gene Warren was like one of the greats. Yeah.
He's listed as visual effects supervisor and for the company Fantasy 2 Film Effects. So I'm not exactly sure what he would have done. And then there's a guy named David Leroy Anderson, who, when I looked up his credits, he's married to Heather Langenkamp and is co-owner of AFX Studios, specialty shop to, one-stop shop kind of thing. And then there was another guy named Lance Anderson, and I don't know if they're related. I couldn't find a connection in the details there, but he was listed as special makeup designer, and they both worked on some of the same movies. So I'm thinking they're probably related, but they did stuff like the Dawn of the Dead remake, Island of Dr. Moreau in '96, Death Becomes Her. One of them did the Goldie Hawn stuff, the Nixon Frost, the effects for the prosthetics for Nixon. When you look at their details, a lot of it is prosthetics. So I know that there's a lot of other people did a lot of great stuff on this, but I'm not sure who did what. You know what? We could talk a long time on this, and I know there's other stuff that I kind of wanted to bring up, but
Old
we
clock
need
on
to
the
cut
wall.
this off. Any last comments on this? I mean, for me, it's got its faults, but it is. It's very memorable, and it's very well done in terms of.
I mean, is there anyone out there who hasn't seen it? If you haven't seen it, I mean, you have to see it. It's a must watch for sure.
Mhm.
Sure.
And it is different watching it now than back then. And you see the flaws more like Bill was talking about, but but it's still one of those that made an impact on a lot of people, myself included, because I was such a fan of the book.
Right.
I was hoping it would be good, and it was better than I had hoped for when I saw the movie. And I still love watching it now. It's one of those that if I see it, if I'm flipping through the channels and it's on, I'll watch it, type of thing. So yeah, if you haven't seen it, what are you waiting for?
Yeah, what are you waiting for? An engraved invitation? I mean, unlike some, it does have its flaws, but unlike a lot of Stephen King adaptations that are flawed, it's not flawed because they ignored what was in the book. It may be that this works better as a book than it does as a film. That some of the things that I think a lot of what happened in the book as well, but it didn't occur to me. Maybe he's able to explain it a little better, and the character's thoughts, which you can't do in a film. So that's an interesting thing to go back and read the book and see why it worked better as a book. Yeah. But for all that, look, yeah, definitely give it a watch. And then watch the new one and compare the two, and you can see how filmmaking has changed.
Yeah. There's a lot of pretty emotional scenes in here that elicited a lot of emotions out of me. Everywhere from when they find Pascal to the cat coming back, the death of a child. I mean, there's not much worse than what most parents can imagine. So
yeah.
Check it out. Also, there was another Grue-Crew did this. So you might want to check that out. And I'll put the link to it in the show notes. It was about 5 years ago. So we figured, hey, we're all different.
That's right.
We're doing it again.
5 years seems like an eternity ago.
We're going to act like none of that other stuff ever happened.
Well, and none of that stuff was on YouTube. So this is all like new and fresh.
And it's new to me.
Get to see our pretty faces.
Those are audio podcasts. So, all right, we got a few feedbacks. I think we can get through these okay without dissing them. Chad, do you want to take the first one? 220 on Akira.
Yeah, let me get over there to it. Bruce Campbell was the first choice for Louis Creed.
Yeah,
while I'm looking.
Bruce Campbell and Tom Savini was offered to direct, I guess.
Interesting.
Turned it down. Maybe he was getting ready to do Night of the Living Dead.
Maybe. Episode 220, Akira. Brian Dass, who I think is a first time commenter that we read on here.
I believe so.
He says, Akira for life, my favorite movie of all time, beyond Kubrick. I'll never see work ethic like what it took to make that anytime near now. Genius.
That's true.
Yeah, totally.
True that, Brian.
Yeah, thanks for writing, Brian.
These are on Dragon Slayer, episode 222. Crystal, you want to take Chad White and Miss Monster?
Okay, so you want me to take Chad and Miss Monster? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Chad White. It's amazing how well Dragon Slayer holds up. I loved it when I was a little kid, and I still enjoy it today. Great review. Yeah, it does. It still holds up. And Miss Monster, I love that name, by the way.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite fantasy horror movies. Yeah, I mean, it's beautifully fantasy horror. Like, it's awesome.
I would like to meet Mrs. Monster and Mr. Monster for that matter.
There's a Mr. Monster too. That's actually
there's got to be
assume
so.
There's a Mrs.
Well, she's a widow.
Maybe, perhaps not.
That's possible.
Well, what if there's two Mrs. Monsters?
There could be another Mrs. Monster.
There could be another. Hey, we're okay with that.
Yeah.
And Bill, evil genius weighs in.
Drakes, dragons. Okay, how do you pronounce this word?
Wyverns.
Oh, wow. So there's no silent letters. Okay, that's what tricked me. Wyverns, eastern dragons, all different creatures, but generically called dragons. I wouldn't fault them for having a sage-like old dude teaching a young apprentice. Ulick, Obi-Wan, Gandalf, Merlin too, in some tellings, all died, leaving their apprentice followers to battle on in their absence. Heck, we can add Mickey, Rocky Balboa in Rocky 3 to this trope too.
Kill him with fire rock!
I wouldn't really call him an Obi-Wan clone, but more a take on Gandalf or Merlin. So I would call it a storytelling tool rather than them trying to mimic Star Wars. Yes, most definitely still a great film effects-wise after all these years. That is true.
Absolutely. Good points, too, about the apprentice and
Mr.
Yeah.
Genius
the
with another good
mentors and-
comment.
Yeah.
Didn't seem evil at all. I don't know. So thanks to Evil Genius, Mrs. Monster, and Brian Dass for new commenters, and Chad White. Appreciate it as always.
Yes.
That's it
Love
for
our
this
viewers.
episode.
Chad.
But every 2 weeks,
Ooh, the next one. Oh,
we'll
I'm
be
excited.
focusing on a specific film released between 1980 and 1989. Next up,
It's a big one.
one chosen by Chad.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Yay.
Come out
Save
to play.
the franchise.
This
That's
is
the one.
another double tap, but
Yeah.
that's
One of
cool.
the greatest.
Worth it.
This is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm gonna dress up like Don Dokken and sing Dream Warriors.
I'd say of all the Nightmare movies, you got to say the first one's the most important because there wouldn't be any others without it. But this is the one that
Absolutely.
really made the franchise into a franchise.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Little dress.
And Patricia Arquette, one of my
Yeah.
movie crushes.
So good.
Yep. Good choice.
Okay. We'll look forward to doing that next. Plenty of ways to stay in touch. Please leave feedback. Comments on the Gruesome Magazine YouTube channel, or you can send emails to feedback@gruesomemagazine.com, make comments on the Facebook group, whatever. But please leave comments. You know, we
Yes.
read them.
Yeah.
We love your input. We have some of the smartest fans out there, I think.
Sure do.
So we appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Catch us again here in 2 weeks.
Yep.
For another great horror movie of the 1980s, as only decades of horror can do it. Say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.